My name is Harper Lane, and I swear to you, nothing could have prepared me for the moment my entire family froze in our own backyard. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, 40 years of marriage, 40 years of my parents surviving hospital shifts, firehouse emergencies, tight paychecks, and raising two stubborn kids under the hot Texas sun. We had string lights hung across the fence, a rented grill smoking in the corner, my mom's favorite country playlist humming low. Neighbors drifted in and out with casseroles. My dad, Mark Lane, was laughing louder than everyone else, holding a cold beer against the heat like he was 25 again. And then it happened. I stood up from the picnic table, walked toward him, and placed a small leather key pouch in his hand. "Dad," I said, smiling the kind of smile you worked 2 years for, "do you like the F-100 I bought you?" His smile fell first. Then his forehead creased. Then he blinked at me like he thought I was joking. "What truck, Harper?" That question, it drained the entire backyard of sound. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Chairs creaked as people turned. Even the grill hissed quieter. And across the table, my younger brother Tyler went sheet white. His fingers stiffened around his beer bottle like it might slip. Something inside me clicked. I wasn't confused. I wasn't scared. I was done. I looked right at him. "Tyler, show me the registration, right now." A ripple moved through the guests. Confusion, curiosity, then this heavy, awful silence. And listen, if you've ever trusted a family member to help with something big and it blew up in your face, drop your story in the comments. I'm not alone in this, and neither are you. And hey, hit subscribe if you want to hear how this one spiraled faster than a Texas dust storm. Back to that night, Tyler didn't speak. He didn't move. My dad looked between us, trying to catch up to a conversation he never knew he'd missed. Because here's the truth. For almost 2 years, I'd saved, searched, bought, and restored a 1971 Ford F-100, the truck my dad gave up when he couldn't afford Mom's medical bills decades ago. I planned to hand it back to him on this exact anniversary. I thought it would be the kind of memory that becomes family legend. Instead, it became the moment we all learned just how deep betrayal can run when it comes from your own blood. If you've ever been the oldest child, you know exactly how it feels to carry a weight that nobody else seems to notice. I've been doing that since I was old enough to reach the top cabinet. My parents never asked for it. I just stepped into the role because someone had to. And in our family, that someone was always me. Growing up in Austin, we didn't have much, but we had enough. My dad worked the kind of job where he came home smelling like smoke and adrenaline, boots covered in soot, hair flattened under a fire helmet. My mom spent half her life on double shifts in the ER, patching up other people's disasters while managing our own bills in the margins of her lunch breaks. They were never the type to complain. But I remembered something Dad once told me when I was 11. We were driving past an old ranch road when he saw a faded Ford F-100 parked under a pecan tree. His face lit up in a way I didn't see often back then. He said, "I used to have one just like that, bought it dirt cheap and planned to restore it before life happened." Life, in this case, meant my mom getting sick and hospital bills stacking faster than the mailman could deliver them. So Dad sold the truck. He never said it out loud, but I knew that decision hurt more than he let on. When I got older and finally started earning real money doing voiceover work, commercials, audiobooks, video game characters, I promised myself that one day I'd buy that truck back for him. Not the same one, of course, but one that would mean the same thing. About 2 years before the anniversary party, I started searching. Every night between sessions, I scrolled auctions, old forums, Facebook marketplace disasters, and dusty Craigslist postings from men named Bubba, who wanted cash only and no questions asked. I almost gave up until I found it. A rusty, sun-bleached 71 Ford F-100 sitting behind a barn in Oklahoma. I drove 6 hours straight after a morning recording session. The owner was an older rancher who had 3 dogs, a busted knee, and a handshake you could feel in your spine. The truck was rough, paint peeling, tires cracked, interior smelling like dust and regret, but the engine turned over. Barely, but enough. I wired the money the same night. Every dollar felt like it was going exactly where it belonged. Over the next 18 months, I put more time and money into that truck than I'd ever put into anything. New tires, new brakes, new bench seat, fresh paint, deep forest green, exactly the shade Dad once described. I coordinated everything between gigs, sometimes answering mechanic texts from inside recording booths with the director glaring at me. And through all of it, Tyler knew. At first, he was curious, then overly helpful, then pushy helpful. He told me he could handle the registration and insurance while I traveled for work, said he had connections, could get discount fees, new tax advantages. Honestly, I didn't want to involve him at all, but Mom encouraged it, saying it'd be good for us to work on something together again. Dad agreed, proud that Tyler was stepping up. So, I let him help. He handed Dad a limited authorization form. 1 page, small print, something he claimed was routine. Dad signed it without reading every line. Why wouldn't he trust his own son? Looking back, that was the moment everything shifted. Not that I realized it then, I was too busy working, too busy believing that family means safety, not sabotage. Because at that point, the thought that Tyler, my own brother, would use my gift, my savings, my father's dream as collateral for something else, that possibility never even crossed my mind. The first red flag arrived on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of a recording session. I stepped out of the booth for a water break and saw a missed call from my mom. She'd left a voicemail, her voice tight in that way she gets when she's trying not to worry. "Harper, sweetie, a letter came today. Something about insurance for the truck. It has Tyler's business name on it. Call me when you can." My stomach dipped, but I brushed it off. Tyler probably just used his business address as the mailing point. He always tried to make himself look more official than he actually was. Later that night, Mom sent me a picture of the envelope. There it was. Lane Financial Services. Tyler's company. His barely a real company. I texted him right away. Me. Why is the insurance in your business name? Tyler. Routine stuff. Don't worry about it. Me. Explain. Tyler. It's a processing glitch. I'll fix it next cycle. A glitch. That was his answer. Even then, I still wanted to believe he meant well. But then the second red flag hit like a punch. 2 weeks later, Mom forwarded another envelope, thicker this time, heavy cream-colored paper with the name of a local credit union printed at the top. She assumed it was junk mail. She almost threw it away. Inside was a statement referencing the truck's VIN number and a $35,000 loan tied to it. I froze. No way. This had to be a mistake. I called the number on the letter immediately, pacing my tiny apartment so hard the boards creaked. After putting me on hold, then transferring me twice, a representative finally came back on. "Ma'am, the loan was initiated by Lane Financial Services, your brother's business." I swear, my ears rang. I asked who signed the authorization. She read the name. Tyler Lane. My breath left my body like someone had kicked it out of me. He had used the limited authorization Dad signed to secure a personal loan. And the truck, the one I bought, restored, paid for down to the last bolt, was the collateral. I left work early and drove straight to my parents' house. Tyler was already in the driveway, leaning against his car like he had been expecting me. His arms crossed, jaw tight, sunglasses still on even though the sun had set. He spoke before I even reached him. "It's all legit. Stop making it dramatic." Dramatic? You took out a $35,000 loan on Dad's truck. He rolled his eyes. "It's an investment, Harper. The truck's value will go up, and I'll refinance it under Dad's name later. Chill. Chill. He told me to chill. I demanded paperwork. He told me his files were in the office. I asked for receipts. He said they were being processed. Every question I threw, he bounced back with a new, polished lie. My parents came outside, confused, tired, asking what was going on, and Tyler, God, I still get angry thinking about this, put on that innocent, exasperated expression he always used when he wanted to make me look unreasonable. "Harper's just stressed from work," he told them. "I've got everything handled." And they believed him. Maybe not fully, maybe not blindly, but enough to make me feel like I was screaming underwater. Over the next few weeks, the notices kept coming. A tag renewal listing Tyler's firm as the primary contact, an emissions waiver with his signature on it, more insurance documents, more excuses. Every time I confronted him, he acted like I was the one creating problems, like I should be grateful he was managing things. What broke me wasn't just the betrayal. It was watching my parents shrug it off because they'd trusted him, because he was the son, and historically, I was the strong one, the responsible one, the one who could handle things. Meanwhile, Tyler was taking advantage of it all. Of me. Of them. Of the very trust that made us a family. The truck wasn't just a truck anymore. It was leverage, debt, a weapon he used without hesitation. And the worst part? I had no idea how deep the damage was yet. That realization was still waiting for me, coiled behind the next envelope, the next phone call, the next lie Tyler hadn't told me yet. I used to think betrayal felt like a lightning strike. Sudden, violent, impossible to ignore. But the truth? It's quieter than that. It creeps in slowly, like water slipping under a door. By the time you notice, the whole floor is warped. Everything fell apart the day I decided to drive to the DMV myself. It was one of my rare days off, the first in weeks. I told no one what I planned to do. Not Tyler, not Mom, not Dad. I just needed answers from someone who didn't know us, someone who couldn't be manipulated by Tyler's charm or excuses. The clerk behind the counter typed the truck's VIN into her computer. Her expression didn't shift, didn't flicker, didn't crack even a little. She simply printed a page, slid it across the counter, and said, "Here you go, ma'am." I will never forget the feeling in my stomach when I saw it. Registered owner, Lane Financial Services. Mailing address, Tyler's business P.O. box. My dad's name wasn't there. My name wasn't there. Just Tyler, Tyler, Tyler. And below that, like a final twist of the knife, lien holder, Austin Metro Credit Union, $35,000 active lien. I stood there staring, hearing the low hum of the DMV lights, the clicking keyboards, the sound of my heartbeat climbing into my throat. I folded the paper, paid for certified copies, and walked out into the parking lot with my knees shaking so hard I had to steady myself against the car door. I sat there for 20 minutes before I could start the engine. How could he do this? How could my own brother use my gift, my father's dream, as a bargaining chip for his debts? When I got home that evening, my mom was slicing vegetables in the kitchen, humming along to an old country station. Dad was in the garage tinkering with something, completely unaware of the paperwork sitting in my bag. I wanted to tell them right then. I wanted to scream it across the house, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I walked upstairs, pulled the documents from the envelope, and spread them across my bed with trembling hands. One by one, I matched them with the letters Mom had saved, fees, notices, renewal reminders, all pointing to the same truth. Tyler owned the truck. The loan was real. The debt was real. And every day, interest was growing. Still, part of me clung to the hope that this was a misunderstanding, a mistake, a moment of weakness that Tyler would fix if I confronted him the right way. So, I called him. He answered on the second ring, sounding annoyed, as if I had disrupted his day. When I told him what I found, there was a pause. A long, heavy pause before he said, "You're overreacting, Harper." Overreacting. Then, with a sigh dripping with condescension, he added, "You wouldn't understand how these things work. Just trust me." That was the exact moment something inside me broke. Because for the first time, I realized Tyler wasn't confused. He wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't scrambling. He was confident. He believed he could control this. Control Mom, control Dad, control me. The person who had saved every spare dollar, filmed voiceovers in hotel bathrooms, and cried over invoices at 2 a.m., that person was now being treated like a nuisance standing in the way of his plans. That night, after everyone went to bed, I walked into the garage. The truck, covered with a tarp, still awaiting its final restoration, sat completely still. I pulled the tarp back just enough to place my hand on the cool metal. This was supposed to be Dad's. And I cried. Not the loud, dramatic kind you see in movies, the quiet kind, the exhausted kind, the kind that comes from the deepest place in your chest. I felt small. I felt stupid. I felt alone in my own family. But more than anything, I felt the truth settle into my bones. Tyler wasn't going to fix this. He was going to bury it. And if I didn't act soon, he'd bury all of us along with it. There's a moment in every storm when the rain doesn't stop, but something in you shifts. You stop running. You square your shoulders. You tell yourself, if I don't move now, I drown. For me, that moment came 2 days after the DMV visit. I hadn't slept more than a few hours. I kept replaying the clerk's flat voice, the numbers on the lean, Tyler's dismissive tone. The fear had settled so deep, it felt like another organ inside my chest. But fear eventually burns down into something sharper. Resolve. That morning, I called my best friend, Maya Brooks. If there was anyone in this world who could pull me out of a hole, it was her. She teaches high school English, but should honestly be interrogating criminals for the FBI. She can catch a lie in your voice before you even know you're telling it. I didn't even finish the whole story before she said, "Okay, get your laptop, we're fixing this." Within an hour, my dining table looked like a crime investigation board. Papers spread everywhere, sticky notes, highlighters, my coffee turning cold untouched. Maya grabbed one document at a time, flipping through them with the precision of someone who had built her entire personality on annotating novels. "Harper," she said finally, tapping one section with her pen, "this isn't a mistake. Your brother planned this." Hearing it out loud hurt more than reading it. She continued, "But that means we don't need guesses, we need proof. And we need a timeline." So that's what we built. A detailed timeline of every document, every signature, every lie, every mailed notice Tyler tried to redirect. Then Maya taught me the thing that would change everything. How to record calls legally in Texas. Because if it's not on paper and it's not on tape, she said, Tyler will wiggle out of it. We practiced conversations. We practiced openings, closings, traps. She played Tyler better than Tyler ever played himself. Day after her school shifts and my recording sessions, we sat at that dining table running scenarios until my voice cracked. But sometime between the mock arguments and Maya's relentless coaching, something steadied inside me. I wasn't helpless anymore. Then I made another decision, the hardest one. I told Dylan. My younger brother had always been the quiet type, the observer, the one who could read a room in 2 seconds. When I showed him the paperwork, he didn't yell or panic. He just nodded, jaw tightening. I had a feeling. Tyler's been different. He brought his laptop downstairs and started digging through old shared folders Tyler forgot existed. And there it was. Transaction logs, crypto trades, Money moving in all the wrong directions. Screenshots Tyler had accidentally synced months ago. My hands went cold. The loan money wasn't being held somewhere safe. It wasn't being used to increase the truck's value. It was gone, burned in volatile coin markets Tyler had no business touching. We printed everything. Dylan made backups. I'd put it all in a slim black folder, the one I imagined Tyler would never see coming. After days of prep, sleepless nights, and more coffee than any doctor would recommend, Maya looked at me and said the words that finally grounded me. "You're ready." And I was. Not because I wanted revenge, but because someone had to protect my parents. Someone had to stand up against the chaos Tyler had brought into our home. Someone had to tell the truth. The anniversary party was 2 weeks away, and I knew exactly what I had to do. The day of my parents' 40th anniversary felt like the air itself was holding its breath. I woke up with a knot in my stomach so tight, it felt like it had been tied by someone who hated me. But underneath it, there was something steadier, something calmer than I expected. I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. I packed the black folder, every document, every screenshot, every timeline. The phone recorder app was open in my pocket, one tap away from capturing anything Tyler said. Maya stopped by before the party, pretending to deliver a casserole. She slipped me an extra battery pack and whispered, "You're going to be fine. Just stick to the plan." By late afternoon, the backyard transformed into a warm collage of lights, laughter, and grills sizzling with ribs. My parents floated around greeting guests, glowing the way you'd expect from two people who'd survived 40 years of storms together. It almost made me wonder whether I should wait, whether ruining their night made me just as bad as Tyler. But then I caught sight of him. Tyler was near the drinks table, laughing, telling some story with his hands, winning over a small crowd the way he always did. For a second, you could almost believe he was harmless. Almost. When the sun dipped behind the fence and the string lights flickered on, Dad clinked his beer bottle with a fork, thanking everyone for coming. Mom leaned into him, smiling with her whole heart. People cheered. Plates shifted. Someone yelled for a toast. And that's when I stood. My heartbeat thudded loud enough to drown out the music. I looked at my dad, then at Tyler, then at the keys in my hand. "Dad," I said softly at first, Do you like the F-100 I bought you?" The crowd quieted, confused but curious. Dad lowered his drink. "Honey, what truck?" Every sound drained out of the backyard as if it had been sucked into the sky. I turned to Tyler, my voice clear and deliberate. "Then show me the registration, right now." A few heads whipped toward him. He froze, eyes widening just a fraction before he masked it. "It's on my phone," he muttered, already fumbling. "Good," I said. "Pull it up." He tapped, scrolled faster, scrolled again, and then he stopped because the truth was right there in black and white. Owner, Lane Financial Services. Lien, $35,000. Collateral, 1971 Ford F-100. Dad leaned forward to read the screen. His face drained. Mom covered her mouth with both hands. What is this?" Dad whispered. Tyler stammered. It's a temporary investment move. The truck's value will go up. I was gonna..." "No," I cut in. "We're done with lies." I pulled out my phone, pressed one button, and put the call on speaker. "Thank you for calling Austin Metro Credit Union," the automated voice began. A representative picked up. I read the VIN. She confirmed the loan, confirmed the collateral, confirmed the owner, confirmed the signature, confirmed everything. Every person in that backyard heard it. Every keystroke the rep typed echoed through the stunned silence. By the time she finished, Tyler looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Dad's hand shook as he set his beer down. "Tyler," he said quietly, "you did this. You used the truck Harper bought me as collateral." Tyler's voice cracked. "I just needed a short-term loan. I was gonna—" "No," Dad said again, stronger, firmer, a voice I'd heard only a handful of times in my life. "You stole from your sister, you lied to your mother, you abused my signature." Tyler's mask shattered. He stepped back, chest heaving, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "You'll regret this," he suddenly shouted. Not at Dad, but at me. "You don't get to ruin my life over a stupid truck." He turned and bolted toward the side gate, shoving it open so hard the latch slammed against the fence. His footsteps pounded down the driveway until they disappeared into the night. No one spoke. Then Dylan walked up beside me, put a hand on my shoulder, and said loud enough for every guest to hear, "She didn't ruin anything. She just told the truth." My dad's voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Harper, give me the folder." I handed it to him. He looked through each page, every lie, every signature, every theft. When he finished, he exhaled slowly and said to the whole backyard, "Tyler has 45 days to pay back every dollar and transfer the title into my name. No extensions." Guests left quietly after that. No one touched dessert. But for the first time in months, I felt the ground under my feet again. Justice wasn't finished yet, but it had finally begun. The morning after the party felt unusually quiet, like the house itself was recovering from what happened. The decorations were still up, half-deflated balloons swaying in the kitchen doorway. My parents sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around untouched coffee mugs, staring at the folder like it might rearrange itself into something less painful. No one said much. We didn't need to. The truth had already said everything for us. Dad called a family meeting later that afternoon. His voice wasn't angry. It was tired in that bone-deep way someone gets when the person they raised turns out to be a stranger. He laid out the terms again: 45 days, full repayment, title transferred properly. After that, legal action. Mom didn't cry this time. She just nodded, clutching a tissue she never used. Tyler didn't show up. He didn't call. He didn't text. For 2 weeks, he was just gone. Until one morning, he appeared on the porch with a duffel bag and dark circles under his eyes. He looked smaller somehow, worn down by the consequences he'd never expected to face. He begged for more time. He promised he'd find a way. He blamed the market. He blamed stress. He blamed everyone but himself. Dad stood in the doorway, blocking the entry. His voice didn't shake when he said, "Son, I love you, but I can't protect you from choices you made on purpose." When Tyler tried pushing again, Dad ended it. "You're my son, but until this is made right, you're not part of this household." And he closed the door. The sound of that latch clicking is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Over the next months, life restructured itself. Dad changed every password to the family accounts. Mom filtered every piece of mail. Dylan spent evenings helping Dad file disputes and submit title correction forms. I handled the loan communications and forwarded every update. Eventually, the credit union released the lien. Partial repayment plus legal verification was enough. The truck was ours again. And for the first time since buying it, I allowed myself to breathe. 1 year later, we held a much smaller anniversary dinner. Just me, Mom, Dad, Dylan, and Maya. After we ate, Dad handed me the keys and nodded toward the garage. We took the F-100 around the block at sunset. The wind was warm, the engine purred, And Dad looked at me with a softness that said more than words ever could. He whispered, "Thank you for fighting for us when we didn't know we needed it." And that's the thing about family betrayal. Sometimes the circle gets smaller, but the people who stay, they stay stronger. If you've ever had to draw a hard line with someone you love, share your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more real-life stories where truth finally wins, hit subscribe. There's more to tell.